It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors,
by Wallowa County.
Nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence. And by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
We start off our broadcast with a little news that I would call an attempt to make some lemonade out of lemons. As you may recall, a good portion of Washington State's steelhead hatchery program was shut down this spring after they literally caved in and settled a pending lawsuit without a fight, promising to not release several 100,000 steelhead smolt into streams around Puget Sound. Well, those fish have to go somewhere, and 300,000 of them, averaging 11 to 13 inches in size, are being stocked in 19 western Washington lakes this fall by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So, if you are a trout, or in this case, a small steelhead angler, you might want to head to a lake in western Washington during the next few weeks. You can find out which lakes are being stocked by going to the WDFW webpage or to their Facebook page, which has also been updated with this information. This week on the show, we're talking hunting, we're talking fishing, and we're talking conservation. We're going to start off by talking with a really nice and talented guy in the outdoors industry, Richie Herod. Richie works for the Forest Service in Leavenworth, Washington, and also produces a TV show called The Northwest Outdoorsman that you can see on Comcast Sports Northwest. Richie's going to tell you about the Northwest fishing and hunting episodes he has on tap for you this fall, and also talk about some of the fun he's having outside as well. Lance Mers is back for an extended Max Minute, and this time we focus not so much on a particular lure, but just on some of the fishing and hunting adventures Lance has been enjoying over the last month. After we talk to Lance, we get to visit with Mark Holyoke, who speaks with us from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation headquarters in Missoula about some of the great work this organization has been doing in all 4 Northwestern states this year. Mark is also going to invite you to what may well be the biggest and best party you'll ever attend. It's called Elk Camp. It's happening between December 4th and the 7th, and it's taking place at the biggest party town around, Las Vegas, baby. We've got a bunch of good stuff for you in our outdoor news and field report segment, to include an update on the FLW College Bass Tournament Series, a Northwest bird hunting forecast from Quail Forever, info about a great program called Hunters Against Hunger in Montana, and a fall fishing report covering Southern Oregon from outdoors writer and tournament bass angler Jason Haley. Throw in some great upcoming events to include a spectacular family outdoor festival taking place November 1st in southern Idaho, and we've got another jam-packed show coming your way. But before we get into all of this good outdoor stuff, we need to share some good news about an abundance of fall Chinook this year on the Columbia and Snake Rivers. David Sparks has the details on this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight, brought to you by Shiloh Inn & Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to its motto of providing affordable excellence.
Fall Chinook Run, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Idaho Fish and Game, Head of Fisheries, Ed Schriever on the Fall Chinook Run.
Perfect storm where these things come together, so you get a couple of consecutive generations for the naturally produced fall Chinook, predominantly from the Hanford Reach of the Columbia. The hatchery propagation and good ocean survival and fairly good conditions being managed in the Columbia River for those fish when they're juveniles going out. And here we are looking at record abundances of adult fish and really dynamic sport fisheries, not only in the saltwater, but from Astoria up through the Hanford Reach and the Snake River. A dramatic turnaround for fall Chinook runs over the last decade, predominantly as a result of hatchery influence, mitigation, and supplementation. So everybody says, well, they must all be hatchery fish. We're expecting, if we don't set a contemporary record, that is since Lower Granite Dam has been in place for fall Chinook returns, it'll be really close to last year's record run. The interesting thing within that run is that this year we're expecting over half of the adults returning in that run to be natural origin fish.
That is, fish who originated from eggs that were laid in the environment and not coming from the hatchery. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs? Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards, and gimmicks? At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
I'm Ward Burton. Think that's fast? That's nothing compared to how fast America is losing its wildlife habitat. Join the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and help us protect millions of acres. Visit elkfoundation.org or call 1-800-CALL-ELK.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. In celebration of the fact we're now airing at a new time on our flagship station of 560 KPQ throughout the Wenatchee Valley, we thought we'd bring you the proverbial local boy made good. His name is Richie Herod. He's the host and producer of the Northwest Outdoorsman, heard throughout the Northwest on Comcast. Richie, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, John.
Richie, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your TV show in case they haven't seen it before?
Sure, no problem. The Northwest Outdoorsman was developed by myself, my dad, and my brother. The idea being that we wanted to make a television show right here in the Northwest. It kind of featured average outdoorsmen just like us, you know, kind of the folks that work all week and then get to go out on the weekends and basically take advantage of whatever the season has to offer. And so the show is really about us, about other folks that we know here in the Northwest, and just the great things that we have to do here in the Northwest.
Well, you know, I love your family and the fact that they really are down-to-earth outdoorsmen. Your father's a rancher from Northeast Oregon. Brother, who's frequently on the show, works at the fish hatchery over near Enterprise, Oregon. And you work for the Forest Service. You had a really busy summer this year, didn't you?
Oh, my. Yeah, that was a very busy summer with a lot of wildfire here in the local area, and it was a very long summer, and it was very devastating for a lot of people. So our thoughts go out to those who, you know, lost homes and property in the fires this summer.
Absolutely. And folks, just a little reminder about that fact. You know, if you're used to playing in north central Washington and you're thinking there's nothing left, that's not true. There is plenty of good fishing and hunting still here, and I would encourage you to come on out and go hunt, go fish, and support the local economy with your dollars because A, they need it, and B, I think you're going to have some success this fall. But let's go ahead and turn back to your show, Richie, and talk about some of the episodes that you have airing this fall. Why don't you give us a rundown?
Yeah, each year I'm able to produce about 6 original episodes just because, you know, I'm so busy with my day job, and it takes a lot of time to produce these shows, you know, by myself. So we have 6 original episodes, and they'll be repeated, so a full 13-week season this fall. So if you are just now tuning in, you'll get to see them all. And we have 3 hunting shows and 3 fishing shows. The lead-off show is a waterfowl hunt on our family ranch in Northeast Oregon, and it's both ducks and geese. Just a great hunt we had the past year, and so that's really one of my favorites. Then we head to Banks Lake for a walleye fishing with Bob Loomis from Max Lure and then my son. My son, Tyler, is a real avid fisherman. He loves to fish walleye especially, and that was kind of a place that he learned to fish. And so the story is really about him returning to the lake now that he's in college and fishing for walleye. And then we hunt coyotes in eastern Washington with my cousin Mike Herod, who lives over in Cheney, Washington, something that he did as a teenager growing up. And so we kind of told that story and hunted all over the eastern Washington, so that's a great one. Then we head to Lake Roosevelt for large trout and kokanee fishing with the guys from Max Lure and, again, my son Tyler. And that's a really great episode. You'll get to see a really nice size kokanee that we caught there.
Nice.
And then usually we don't show too many shows outside of the Northwest, but it is about us, and occasionally we get a chance to go somewhere. So one of the episodes, my brother and I head to Texas to a working ranch, not a hunting ranch, but a regular working ranch to hunt for whitetail. And
Interesting.
we tell the story about the rancher and what he's done to the place and the hunting there. And then we end with a fishing trip to Lake Chelan for kokanee, and we tell the story of Bob Loomis, who grew up in that area. So many of you know him from the days when he was making fishing rods with his uncle, but now he's at Max Lure and an avid fisherman, and that's his backyard. So that's a great story.
Well, and Bobby Loomis is one of the best guys in the outdoors industry as far as I'm concerned. And that's something I like about your show. It's not just a bent rod and shot and drop show, as I call some of those shows out there that are nothing but video of people fighting fish. Let's have video of animals falling after a shot. You actually spend a significant amount of time telling the stories of the people you spend time in the outdoors with, don't you?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. The average person doesn't really get a chance to go do some of those things that you see on the other television shows, and some of those are done very well. I'm not knocking them; they do a great job. But 95% of the folks hunt and fish like we do, and they go out and it may not be great fishing, but they may do okay. And you talk to each other, you tell stories, you learn about each other's paths. You might talk about the area that you're hunting or fishing in. And here in the Northwest, we just have so many neat locations and very interesting people. And I want to tell those stories through the show. That's what we're really striving to do, is also tell the stories of people and places here in the Northwest.
I think it's a great combination. Folks, again, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Richie Herod. He hosts and produces a show called The Northwest Outdoorsman. So we've run through the series that's going to happen this year. Let's talk about some of the things you're going to be doing this fall, not just necessarily, in terms of filming, but just for fun. What have you got going on during the months of October and November playing outside?
Well, this is a great time of the year, of course, and we're very busy running around, even without the cameras, just doing our thing. My daughter likes to deer hunt, and we're going to be hunting here locally in Chelan County for deer this coming weekend. And then spent a lot of time down in eastern Oregon, deer and elk hunting with my brother and my dad. So that was a great time. We have several waterfowl hunts planned around over in eastern Washington and down in eastern Oregon. Last year there was some really good waterfowl hunting in the Wallowa Valley, so we're going to try to bring you a show about that. And hopefully the upland birds are kind of recovering down there. The chukar hunting hasn't been great in the last couple years, but we'd really like to tell that story as well. Hunting chukars, that's something that we did since we were little kids, and you don't see too many shows about chukars, and so I think it'd be a neat story. It's kind of one of those upland birds. It's pretty cool, pretty fun to hunt. They're hard to hit, and they're in steep ground, so going to be doing some of that.
Well, I think that's why there's not too many chukar hunting shows, because some poor sap's got to lob all that video equipment up the hills while you're chasing after them, and then run back downhill once they fly, and then repeat the whole process.
Yeah, exactly. That's for sure. They're tough.
Yes, they are. They are. And you know what? The older I get, the more I like quail hunting over chukar hunting. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we'll be trying to do some fishing too. We're focused on hunting right now, but as the winter goes on, some of the local lakes and reservoirs around here just really have some great winter fishing, and so I like to go up to Rufus Woods and catch those big triploids. That's a lot of fun, and so we'll be doing things like that as well through the winter.
Well, it sounds like you have a full winter ahead of you, and we're starting to run out of time. So before we go, we better let people know exactly where they can find your show and what time it airs.
Well, it's on Comcast Sportsnet Northwest, and you don't have to have Comcast to get it here locally because it's now carried on Charter Cable, channel 814.
Great.
Yeah, it's really nice to have it local here, and you can see the shows every week, Fridays at 8:30 a.m., and then again on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Occasionally, they also have the show air on Saturday in the afternoon, so if you miss any of those two times, you can catch it then.
So, Richie, let me make sure I have this correct. It's Comcast Sports Northwest. You can tune in Fridays at 8:30 in the morning or Sundays at 9:30 in the morning. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And a website so people can find out more about what you're up to.
Yeah, if they go to HarrodOutdoors.com, they can see everything about the show, keep up with what we're doing, check out our social networks, recipes, all kinds of things on our website.
That's Harrod Outdoors, HARROD Outdoors, HarrodOutdoors.com. Richie, we got to go, but thanks for keeping us on the loop on the great work you're doing out there.
Thanks a lot, John.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your hiking boots and camera and capture the beauty and grandeur of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Experience nature like never before when you saddle up and ride into the eagle-capped wilderness, hike the trails of the Wallowas, hear the wind rush through the bunch grass and view the wildlife of the Zumwalt Prairie, or ride the churning waters of the wild and scenic Wallowa, Snake, and Grand Ronde rivers. Take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
That's the sound you hear when a fish hits the new Sonic bait fish from Max Lure Company. This metal lure can be cast, trolled, or jigged and will catch just about anything that swims in the sea, the river, or the lake. The Sonic bait fish has a unique vibration and flutter that can be rigged in 7 different ways. With all sorts of eye-catching colors and weights available, you'll be reaching for the Sonic bait fish as your go-to lure. It's the Sonic bait fish. Only from Max Lure Company.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. Lance, let's do something a little bit different this episode. You have had a fantastic autumn so far of fishing and hunting here in the Great Northwest. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your fishing adventures? You got into some big king salmon, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, John. We were down to the Columbia on the mouth of the Chutes, the mouth of the Klickitat, and we did hover fishing. With all those fall run Chinook coming up, the fishing was fantastic. And, you know, of course, we're using Max Lure products and just nailing the fish.
Now, you're using smile blades basically above the eggs there to go ahead and give you a little extra flash and get a few more bites in the competition, weren't you?
Exactly. And, you know, that's the beauty of a smile blade is you can put it on virtually any type of fishing lure or anything that you want, and it's still going to have that added attraction in the water that's going to entice more fish to bite.
Now, how many salmon did you personally end up with? Because I know your boat got a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think each day I caught 3, which is, you know, the limit. So, yeah, it was a good day.
That's nice. That's very nice. So moving from the Columbia River Gorge further up the Columbia towards north central Washington, I understand you and your brother from Texas had a fantastic opening weekend deer hunt.
Yes, it was phenomenal. And my brother had been living in Texas for the past 8 years. Grew up in Washington, but he finally got a job up here in Washington. It was the first chance we got to hunt together, and we went out opening morning and got a dandy 6x4 buck, probably weighed about 250 pounds, and that's no exaggeration, folks.
You felt every pound of it as you were trying to hike up and down those ravines over there on Douglas County. And folks, I saw a picture of that. This is one of the biggest bucks I've seen taken on public land in a long time. So congratulations. Great way to welcome your brother home. It just goes to show you, folks, the people at Max Lure Company, they're not just about making lures. They love to fish. They love to hunt just like you. Find out more at maxlure.com. And that wraps up another Max Minute from Max Lure Company.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
It's a great time to go fishing, and whether you're heading to the lake for trout, to the saltwater for salmon, or fishing the Columbia for Chinook or steelhead, The Real News has got you covered. The columnists at The Real News are just like you, die-hard anglers. Better still, they share their expertise to help you have a great time on the water. The Real News has been going strong for 26 years and prides itself on being Washington's only sport fishing newspaper. Look for your copy at local sporting goods retailers or subscribe online at therealnews.com.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We are talking to Mark Holyoke. He's the Director of Communications for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. This is a great organization that does a lot of work to conserve and preserve habitat, not only for elk, but lots of other wildlife here in the Northwest and across North America. Mark, let's talk briefly about some of the great work Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is doing in the Northwest. Let's start off with Montana, which is home for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
That it is, and thanks for the opportunity to come on. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've got some great projects that are going on across the region and across the country, specifically through the region we're talking about here. And in Montana, I guess most recently in late August, we acquired about 1,000 acres in Montana and conveyed it to the Helena National Forest. That's in the central part of the state. And this was a piece of land that was kind of broken up by a checkerboard pattern of public and private land. It's in the upper Missouri River watershed. It's on the slopes of the Big Belt Mountains. And what it did is it helped improve access to thousands of acres that were previously hard to get to, and not just that 1,000 acres itself, but the surrounding land. And as you mentioned, our work does focus on elk and elk habitat, but there's definitely some benefits for all kinds of other critters out there. And this particular location was not just quality elk habitat, but also some key riparian habitat. So, the anglers like this as well. In this section, there's a creek called Ray Creek. It runs for about 2 miles over this 1,000 acres, and so this will help spruce things up for the West Slope cutthroat trout as well. So good for anglers and good for hunters and good for folks who just like to get out and hike and enjoy the scenery.
Oh, I love it. And folks, that's another thing about this organization. One of their taglines is hunting is conservation. And as a hunter, I know this to be true, and a lot of you listening out there too, but it's nice to actually have a conservation organization like yours actually bring that motto to the forefront. Let's move to Idaho. What's going on in the Gem State?
Well, they have kind of an interesting situation. They were stuck in a 1-year window between the expiration of a grant with the USDA and when they could apply for another one that had to do with their access program. So they reached out to us, and we said, heck yeah, this would be a great thing. And so we awarded them a $50,000 grant for Idaho's Access Yes program. And what that does is it will enroll already did enroll about 40,000 acres of land to provide access for sportsmen and women. And we kind of did the same thing recently in Wyoming with a $45,000 grant for its access program, which helped provide access to about 190,000 acres of land for hunters there. So that's one of the things that we have an emphasis on as well. It's not just protecting important habitat, but also in creating public access, because we all need a place to go and hunt, and we all need a place to go and fish. And as ownership patterns tend to change over time, we find that shrinking. So we're doing our best to seek out public access projects that kind of help all of us.
Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Mark Holyoke. He's the Director of Communications for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. We're talking about some of the great work they're doing, not just for elk, but for hunters as well, and fishermen too, throughout the Northwest. So we've talked Idaho, we've talked Montana. Let's talk about Washington. I know about one big project you've done right in my backyard, the Stemilt Partnership.
Yeah, that one was a good one. That was land that was previously not necessarily accessible or accessible in a way that it could be. And that was a project that was a number of years. I want to say it was 7 years in the making, and just took all sorts of folks to come together and, not necessarily sing Kumbaya, but to hold hands and realize that, hey, we need to work together to do what we can to free up some of this, what was once upon a time private land as well, and to open it up. And that land it's important habitat as well for elk and all sorts of other critters. So that was an important one too.
Oh, it really was, because, folks, this was another one of those checkerboard areas that had private land, public land, and not just public land, but some of it was WDFW land, some of it was Department of Natural Resources land, and it became a problem, especially as developers wanted to move into the private land areas that could have cut off elk migratory corridors. So this was a huge win for the Kalakam elk herd and other animals that are using this area, so they go ahead and move freely throughout the seasons. Moving on to Oregon, what's going on down there in the Beaver State?
Well, we just had a dedication celebration not very long ago in the northeastern part of the state. It's for a project that we closed on in late 2013, and this was a big one. This one, too, was years in the making. We worked with our different partners, our conservation partners, to permanently protect and open up access to more than 13,000 acres of land. That was in the headwaters of the John Day River area.
Right.
And plus also helped improve access to tens of thousands of acres of publicly owned national forest lands. And as the previous project, the Stemelt project, this too was one of those nasty checkerboard pattern of ownerships between public and private land. And, it's home to elk and deer and bear and antelope, all kinds of birds. And because we're talking headwaters of the John Day, it's an important riparian habitat for all sorts of fish as well, bull trout, salmon, steelhead, and others. So again, this was a big one. This was a really big one for conservation. It was big for wildlife and fish, and for those of us who like to go out and just be on the landscape. I mean, it was a great thing.
Absolutely. So again, folks, great work being done by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation right here in the Northwest. Folks, this organization is only 32 years young. It's not a really old conservation organization, but they're very active. They're growing rapidly, and you can get involved too. We'll tell you more about that at the end of this interview. But before we do, let's talk about a big event that you have that basically celebrates all the work the volunteers do. It's called Elk Camp. It takes place this year at the Mirage in Las Vegas, Thursday, December 4th through Saturday, December 6th. What is going to be happening at this really big party?
Well, I'm excited about it for a couple reasons. First of all, December 4th is my birthday, and I've never had so many people come attend it. But the most important thing is it is our national convention, and we're doing things a little bit different this go-around. In the past number of years, we've held it over kind of a earlier in the year, February, March, in that time frame. And so we decided we'd put it in Vegas after Thanksgiving, well before Christmas, December 4th through the 7th, and it's in conjunction with the National Finals Rodeo. The reason we're doing that is this is the biggest bash of the year for Vegas, and of course this is a huge Western lifestyle event. So many of us that hunt and fish, not all of us, but so many of us are kind of like that. They're kind of our people, so to speak. And so we'll get together at the same time in the same place, and we'll celebrate our 30 years of RMEF volunteers and all that they've done to help out the cause of elk and elk country. We'll have auctions, the World Elk Calling Championships. We've got a great country music lineup. Easton Corbin will be there, Daryl Singletary. And we're after some of these performances, and we've kind of shifted them up earlier in the evening due to our members who've asked us to do that, so they can go out and enjoy what Vegas has to offer or hit the NFR. And we'll be providing a live feed of the NFR. We'll have some NFR viewing parties and just a great party. And then kind of an extension that's also new from Elk Camp is we have what we're calling the Hunter Christmas Exposition. And if you've been to Vegas during the NFR, you know that they have a couple of really popular shows on the side. They happen to Las Vegas Convention Center. One is Cowboy Fan Fest. The other is Cowboy Christmas Gift Show. And so the Hunter Christmas Expo will be right next to those, and it'll be a celebration of hunting and fishing and the outdoors. It's something that's kind of been missing for this crowd, and so we're excited to have this going on at the same time as Elk Camp, and we know that there's going to be a lot of us who will be shuttling back and forth, and we're just really looking forward to it. It's going to be really exciting.
Oh, Mark, this sounds huge, and this sounds like the party of the year as far as I'm concerned. Folks, if you want to find out more about Elk Camp, go to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation website. Really easy, rmef.org. That's rmef.org. You'll find a link right away to go ahead and find out about registering for Elk Camp. And again, this sounds like a wonderful event. And make it a point to look for a chapter near you and join this organization that's doing great things. Even if you just attend the annual banquet and participate that way, you're helping out the elk. It's something I've enjoyed doing for several years now. I get to MC one of the local banquets here in Central Washington, and I can't tell you what a great organization this is in the small amount of time we have. Mark, we got to go, but thanks for telling us about this great work and about Elk Camp on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it, and we appreciate everyone's support.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a Leupold rifle scope. Why? Well, because Leupold is America's optical authority. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a loophole scope on my rifle. And next time, I'm not going to miss.
Loophole Rifle Scopes. Check out the whole line at loophole.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort. It's located at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. It's a full resort that has RV spaces, it has tent sites, it has park cottages, motel rooms, even camper cabins. If you want a place to stay while hunting and fishing at a wonderful place for both, especially now, which is prime cast and blast time, go ahead and book a stay. You can do so by going to mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We've got news from the FLW College Tournament Fishing Series to share with you. Tanner Mort and Austin Turpin, representing a brand new bass club at the University of Idaho, won the FLW College Fishing Western Conference Invitational Tournament on California's Clear Lake this month with a 2-day total of 10 bass weighing nearly 42 pounds. The U of I Bass Club picked up a $4,000 check, and the team is now qualified to fish the 2015 FLW College Fishing National Championship. Other Northwest College fishing teams that will be at the National Championship hail from my alma mater, Eastern Washington University, also from Oregon State University and the University of Oregon. It will be nice to see the Northwest so well represented on this national stage, set at Lake Keowee, South Carolina in March. There's a fantastic new program in Montana this year called Hunters Against Hunger. From Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, we learn a new law allows hunters to donate some or all of their big game meat to people in need. Here's how it works. If you want to donate all or part of your legally harvested big game animal, take it to your nearest participating meat processor, who will turn it into ground venison and distribute it through the Montana Food Bank Network to families in need. There's no cost to process and donate meat. If you're a hunter who wants to keep some of the meat, simply bring a photocopy of the carcass tag with you and just pay for the processed meat you get back. Participating meat processors in our affiliate listening area include Western Meat and Sausage Block in the 800 block of Dewey Boulevard in Butte, the House of Meats at 1201 10th Avenue North in Great Falls, and the Lolo Locker at 6220 Caris Lane in Lolo. By the way, you don't even have to harvest an animal to help out. Anyone purchasing a hunting license in Montana can donate $1 or more when they get their license to help with the processing charges associated with this program. Hunters sharing their harvest with the needy through Hunters Against Hunger. This is a great idea. We've got a late quail hunting forecast from Quail Unlimited covering 3 of our 4 Northwestern states, though we have to apologize to you quail gunners in Montana because they didn't publish a forecast for you. In Idaho, overwinter survival and mild spring weather have set the stage for a robust year of quail production and hunting success. Jeff Netter with Idaho Fish and Game says, with the one exception of the Clearwater region due to continued drought conditions, large quail broods have been observed across the quail range, and hunters should be ready for an excellent season. Netter says, based on the roadside survey results, quail hunting should be very good in the Magic Valley region, and hunters should expect to find areas with abundant quail along the Snake River and its tributaries west of Twin Falls, although good quail numbers are also being observed as far north as Shoshone. Last year, some 8,400 hunters harvested 66,500 quail in the Gem State. In Oregon, the Department of Fish and Wildlife reports hunters should see a noticeable improvement in California quail numbers over last year in most areas. Favorable spring conditions due to timely weather patterns have contributed to quail production, but populations and harvest are still below the 5-year average. In 2013, just over 11,000 hunters harvested some 23,595 birds in Oregon. And in Washington, Brian Calkins with WDFW says Washington's quail hunting forecast looks to be better than usual after a nesting season that was favorable for birds. Biologists reported seeing large amounts of quail broods this year during routine work in the field, said Calkins. At this point in time, we only have concerns about a wildfire in Okanogan County, one of the largest fires in state history. It is difficult to predict the long-term effects, but habitat may limit quail populations or distributions for the next several years in this area. Calkins continues that over the last 2 years, WDFW has focused a great deal of emphasis on increasing access to private land for upland bird hunting in the southeastern part of the state. About 100,000 acres have been enrolled in the state's hunting access program. Much of this is available for access through the WDFW website. Last year in Washington, hunters managed to harvest 72,700 quail, most of them California quail. If you want to find out more about quail hunting and conservation, well, go to quailforever.org. That's Quail Forever. It's another conservation organization doing some good work for birds here in the United States. Turning to field reports on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're heading to Southern Oregon to talk to Jason Haley. He's with myoutdoorbuddy.com, a great website that covers the outdoor scene in Southern Oregon and Northern California. He's also a bass tournament angler, and he's got the skinny on what's going on fishing-wise in the southern half of the Beaver State. Jason, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, John. Good to be here.
Jason, understand there's been a heck of a drought down there that's really affected fishing this summer and this fall. Tell our listeners more about that.
Yeah, it's been a long, dry, hot summer, John. It's just really been unbelievable. We had our first rain, I guess, on September 18th. 2 days later, on the 20th, it was 101 degrees here in Medford.
Wow.
A lot of our lakes have turned to puddles. The boat launch facilities are not doing well.
So, obviously, huge impact on the cold water species like the trout that just can't survive in these, warm water conditions. Are there any places as we're heading into fall where, trout fishing and steelhead fishing still a viable option in Southern Oregon?
Yeah, we're pretty lucky here. I mean, there's still plenty of options depending on what kind of species you're looking for, John. A lot of our lakes are put-and-take fisheries anyway, and actually, if you've got a float tube or a small john boat that you can drag, or if you're a bank angler, fishing's still pretty good in a lot of these lakes like Emigrant, Applegate, Howard Prairie, and Hyatt, Agate Lake. You won't be competing with the guys with boats now, too, because the boat launches have been out of commission for a while. But if you've got a smaller craft that can get out there, there's still fish to be had. And the river, the Rogue River, hasn't been hit nearly as bad as the lakes around here.
Well, I like it. I like your whole let's make lemonade out of lemons attitude there. So there you go, folks. And the Rogue is known as one of the premier rivers in the Northwest. You've got the half-pounders, you got steelhead, you got salmon. October, November, what are anglers going to be targeting in the Rogue?
Well, the Rogue's pretty much more or less a year-round steelhead fishery except for the months of May and June. You got the two, you got the summer run and the winter run. They kind of overlap. And so it's just always a great steelhead fishery. They're catching them right now in the middle and the upper Rogue on flies. It doesn't switch over to bait until November 1st, but they're catching them right now. But there's a lot of fish stacked up down on the mouth and the lower river waiting for rain, and it looks like we're about to get some these next couple days.
There you go. All right, so get those steelhead rods out, but get those bass rods out too, because a lot of people give up on bass fishing once summer is over, but in a lot of ways, this is one of the best times to be out on the water if you're targeting bass, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I just talked to some friends that had a bass tournament on 10 Mile Lake and 10 Mile Lakes over in that area on the coast, and fishing was pretty surprisingly good. Fish were up shallow, the water temperature's coming down. Quite a few other places where we've still got some water. Lost Creek Lake survived, the ramps are all in order, and that should be good bass fishing. Lake of the Woods, a lot of people don't talk about for bass, but there's some nice smallmouth in there, and that's a spring-fed body of water, so the water levels were perfect all year.
Let me ask you a question, especially as we're heading into November. That's traditionally a tough month for bass angling here in the Northwest. If you were to use one lure or one technique to catch bass, whether it be Southern Oregon or anywhere else in the Northwest, what would you use?
John, I'd say it depends on the water temperature. If it's too cold, I'm going to be fishing with plastics with like a Cinco and medium depths, maybe even deeper. There's still some decent topwater fishing to be had, though. As long as the temperature's in the mid-60s and above, here there's a pretty good topwater bite going on at Applegate right now if you can get your boat in there.
We have got to go, but before we do, I want to ask you a quick question. Your tournament schedule, what circuit are you fishing, and what's your schedule look like for next year?
Next year, John, I'm going to be fishing the California Tournament Trail, which is a new Pro-Am circuit in California, but I'm going to be mixing in some opens. I'm going to try to fish Nixon's Marine 10 Mile Open in July. It's a great tournament. Possibly the Moses Lake Invitational in May up in your country.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to fish the U.S. Open on Mead in September. I'm really excited about that.
Wow. Well, we are going to be rooting for you.
It's an expensive proposition, tournament angling, John, and I want to thank Mercury, LoopRope.com, Medford Fuel, and some of my other sponsors like X Factor Tackle, Haber Vision, the Real Tech. They really help offset the cost of this stuff.
Oh, you're not kidding. Bass fishing is not cheap if you're doing it right like you are. Folks, you need to check out the website that Jason contributes to, too. It's myoutdoorbuddy.com. They do a great job of covering the fishing scene in Northern California and Southern Oregon, along with the rest of what's going on outdoors. Jason, again, we've got to go, but thanks so much for sharing this field report with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John, so much.
It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker, the quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com for more information. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Have you been to the new Bass Pro store in Tacoma? It's a big one, and it opened its doors to the public with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and a whole bunch of celebrities on hand on the 22nd. But the grand opening event continues through this weekend with giveaways to the first 200 customers every morning and the chance to win Bass Pro gift cards as well. This is the first store in the Northwest for Bass Pro, which is every bit as big and popular as their rival Cabela's in many parts of the country, so check it out at 7905 South Hosmer in Tacoma. They are open from 9 to 9 Monday through Saturday and 9 to 7 on Sundays. If you enjoy beachcombing, you might want to head to Lincoln City from now through Memorial Day because you just might find one or more of the handcrafted glass floats the local tourism bureau is placing there, and if you find one, you get to keep it. The Finders Keepers program has been going on since 2001 and has drawn all sorts of folks to the 7.5 miles of Oregon coastline along Lincoln City who enjoy the salt air, check out what's washing up on shore, and find some of these unique and local handcrafted treasures to boot. If you're looking for a little education with your morning workout, mark your calendar for November 15th and be at the First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park near Great Falls at 10 a.m. for what's described as a strenuous 2-hour guided hike along the cliffs to discover early Native American petroglyphs as well as carvings left by early homesteaders. The cost for this? Only $3. Not bad for a workout, cheaper than the gym. Last but not least, the second annual Family Outdoor Festival is taking place next Saturday the 1st in southeast Idaho at Little Birch Creek Preserve in Robin from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are going to be hands-on learning stations that are going to be set up for you to learn about duck and elk calling, how to set up duck decoys, how to clean birds, and how to cook them. There is also going to be a tomahawk and knife throwing area, black powder and trap shooting, along with an air rifle and archery range. On top of this, there are fly casting lessons and the chance to do some trout fishing at a private pond at the preserve. Best of all, for adult women and kids 10 and older, is the chance to go on a guided pheasant hunt with mentors and dog handlers who will be on hand. You do need to have a hunting license for this event, and reservations are required for this part of the festival too, which can be made through Idaho Fish and Game in Pocatello. All of the above activities, believe it or not, are free, and they're even throwing in a free lunch. This sounds like an incredible event for the whole family. Again, that's November 1st for the second annual Family Outdoor Festival taking place at Little Birch Creek Preserve in Robin, Idaho. That's all for this week. If you get a chance, go to our website, northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links to find out more about our guests and audio from our most recent broadcast. We also have a Facebook page, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Like us, follow us, and keep up on news that concerns outdoors recreation and conservation here in the Northwest. It's stuff that doesn't necessarily make our show. That's Northwestern Outdoors Radio on Facebook and northwesternoutdoors.com for our website. October has been full of fishing, hunting, and outdoor adventures for my family, and I trust you have had your share as well. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.